Mama here. I can't sleep, so excuse the mess here. So it's kind of late. I don't even know what time it is. But I had finished a book and a movie today, so I figured can't sleep, I might as well do a review. So excuse my face right now. So the movie that I finished today, I'll be finishing another movie tomorrow, and I have a book, but that book's too long for all the details for me to go over today. So this movie is called The Lost City of Z, which they say in the movie they refer to it as Z. It's from 2016. It is based on a book by David Gran, which is based on a true story. And this was back in the 1920s, basically. And the director is James Gray, and then the screenwriter for the book is also James Gray. Let's see, a few of the actors: Charlie Hunnam, he's the one who plays the Major, and so he's our main character. So he's the one who's gonna go through some of the battles, the wars, and also being an explorer. And then Robert Pattinson is Constance, which is sort of I don't know, easy example, but not nearly as effective, is like a secretary to like someone like a CEO, something like that. But he's basically there for his educated knowledge and to help the Major get through the exploration when he's in the exploration timeline. Then we have Sienna Miller, which was the Major's wife. Tom Holland is when the Major's oldest son, Jack, becomes a man, and so Tom Holland plays him. And then there was another guy that was along on most of the Major's explorations, and that's played by Edward Ashley. I said this was based on a true story in a book, and it's basically in the Amazons in around the 1920s, and they're supposed to be there to be mapping and charting the territory because there's not much of a map for Brazil yet, and there's two sides in the Amazon that were fighting and possibly getting close to war over whose land is what land. And so that's the way that the story kind of pans out. Beginning is that the Major is exceptionally well at his job, kind of a high-ranking talents and skills that the military, I think it's the British base, and he worked with them. And then you see him in another few locations like Scotland, this place and that place, that he must have worked and went to war, or not war, but had a important job to be done by him. Although he had the credentials and a lot of specialties around his belt, his dad had done something, which I believe it was drinking and gambling or something like that, to degrade the last name of the major. So anytime someone sees him, he should have been known more of something higher than a major. And so the Geographical Research Service, or whatever it is, it's part of the state or country, I guess, an army that works on researching the area. And I guess the major had that, was doing that when he was younger, and now he's off and doing lots of other work in more of the battlefield. When this job came up about being in exploration, he didn't want to really do it because he hadn't really done it before. I mean, he had done it before, but it wasn't exciting. And then the team trying to get him to do this journey tried to say, basically, you know, you can come out of the midst of your father's shadow and regain the name and the value of his name that his father had demolished. In between all these wars and before the exploration, he has a wife and had a baby. He had like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old son, and right before he left for this big exploration that he finally decided to do, his wife said she was pregnant again. So he went on this exploration. The first one, it was more of like, how do I do this? Where can I get it? I need certain resources. They were doing the charting. They were running into problems in the Amazon, and they had to try to work with the natives, so they didn't know they were like bad. So he and his secretary, or COSTINs, I can never say that. Anyways, he's played by Robert Pattinson. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. They went together on this first journey. A couple other guys went, and they run into a lot more bumps and things throughout it. And at the very end of the journey, they get to the end of the river. That was their mission, and they found it, which means their charting was done. But when they get there, they end up finding like old clay ancient pots and stuff like that. And so with more intel knowledge, they later came to the belief that there's a missing, lost city that was there, that was more ancient than their time in the 20s. So he went back. They went back after the first visit. He reported everything that he found, finished the charting. Everybody was happy about that. And then he was very strong in his conviction about this lost city. And one other guy that was high in status, I don't know if he was a colonel or what, but he had a lot of money and he liked to boast about it. But he says, yeah, when the major was like, and I'm going back out there and I'm going to prove it again, because there were a lot of non-believers in the crowd of all the important people in the this research place that he worked for, and in the military, and wealthy people within the city. So he was very what's the word I'm thinking? Well, confident, but I was thinking more of a different word. He was strong in his beliefs that if he went back out there, he would find, strong in his convictions, that's what I'm thinking. He would find, they would find the lost city. So they did that, and they went out there, and they at least learned how they can be friends with the natives and have no issues, and they helped them along. Well, the money hungry guy that went with them on this second mission, he's a heavier guy, and he wouldn't go by the natives that they had befriended. He tried to like walk alone by himself. He was eating food right out of one of their backpacks. He basically couldn't make it, and they were trying to get from one spot to another spot, but this guy kind of seemed like he went a little delirious in the jungle, like, oh, I wish I was just dead, I wish I was just dead. And then he had an injury or cut or something, a bad injury, something on his leg, when they were on their boat trying to head back towards where they think this city is. This guy tips the raft and he falls in. Another guy falls in. A third of their food and materials and stuff fall in, and so they had to pick up and go to shore. And the injured moneybags guy is just sitting back and talking deliriously, and the others realized not only did he have the skin injury or bruise, but he had what's it called, blood infection. And so the major, his comrades were basically saying, we can just leave him and he'll die and we'll go. And the major isn't like that, so he said, I will give him our last horse, give him our few rations for a few days, and sit him up and head him off to the direction of where he can finally get home. And so they did what they can there, and there was nothing more they could do because of the rations. They ended up having to go back and then repeat kind of what they found or didn't find, and why the exploration ended. And there becomes a tiff between the Moneybags guy, Mr. Murray. When he actually got back, they called Major into a meeting with him, and they had completely opposite stories. Mr. Murray said that he wanted an apology right here in front of everybody for wanting to leave him out there to die, and instead of that, the Major went through what he said they did for him, and that, yeah, fine, I'll apologize. I apologize to my comrades for making them go through this journey with you, and I quit this geographical research kind of society that he was helping. So then the years he kind of stayed home more after that, and then there was a war that started, and he had to go and do it. His kids were mad at him for as many times as he was leaving, but he went to war. He was the Major there, leading his guys, and something happens where he goes down, and the next thing you see is he is in a, like a hospital bed, and his wife is there with the 3 kids that they have by now, and he finally, his injuries finally cleared up, and he was able to do certain things again, but he stayed just at home. He stayed with his family, with his kids. As his oldest son, Jack, was getting older, and he was out shooting bunnies, he asked his dad if they could go back out there one last time and if he can do the journey with him, which is ironic because before that he was upset with his father because he was always gone. Now he wanted to go, and they wanted to do this journey, and the Major was a little bit older now, and his son begged and begged, and he's like, well, you have to talk to mom about it because I can't make that decision. She's the higher authority. So she said, okay. Robert BRANDT chose not to go on this exploration with him this time because he had a wife and kids, or a baby, and so it was just the 2 of them, the son and the father. I mean, the father and the son. And they make the announcement to the media about what they're doing, and everywhere else in the country or United States or whatever started to hear of all these other missing cities. So everybody else started going on other voyages and things to try to find or discover someone. I don't know what city it was. They discovered a city, and some people were going to try to discover the city that the Major's been after. And so finally his son talked him into it, and they found parts of what they thought would be the city, and they run into more natives. Well, the father, being there before, tried to talk to them, but they're not the same kind of natives, and still kind of shot arrows at them. They ran off. They suddenly met a different kind of natives that were on the land, which then started shooting the other natives that were chasing them away. So they were enemies. So the Major and Jack ended up being kind of in the middle, and then they were surrounded by this new troop, and they went to their home base or whatever, and they, since this is based on a true story, it can't really be told how, but they had someone recorded that they had certain native traditions done on them, and the last kind of scene of them looks like they're limp, and the Indian or the natives are trying to carry them downstairs. The only thing you see in the background is water. So you can get the idea of, oh, they drowned them, or they were taken because there was a building and a cliff behind. So you don't really know what happens. And then the wife is going up to one of the geographical guys and saying that someone came to her door that was Brazilian and gave her this stopwatch and said, here, they said that you would know something about this because it was the majors. She took it to the guy, and he looked at it, and she said, I know he's still out there, I know he's still out there. And he's like, no, it's been years. So it was all believed that they did die. But somewhere in the middle, I forget which person it was, if it was his son or if it was one of these society researcher guys, and he held out like a tiny pocket watch, and he said, if I don't come back, I will send this watch to you, and you will know I reached the city and I'm still alive. So whatever happened, them being there or being killed there, or them never dying, and he sends a watch, it indicates that they found the city. But you don't really know if they lived or died. And the end of the book or the movie, it gives you a couple small story end lines, kind of like that the wife believed they were still alive up until her death in like 1954, and that for more than 100 explorers tried to find them in the area that they were at, and that what was it, maybe 100 years later, on the brink of the 21st century, they said that someone went along the trail lines near where the major kept consistently saying there was a lost city there, and it was close enough that they said this could be the lost city, because a lost city was found. But still no word of the major or his son. So it's a military type story. It's military or army type stories for me are hard, because sometimes they're so fast moving, or the fact that they're all in the army guard, and you have to keep an eye on whose face so you know who's talking or who just got shot, because you're all wearing the same thing. That's what I have sometimes when it comes to military. This basically just shows a man who is confident and has dedication, and when he believes something, he follows through with it. And he had many people help him. He had many people against him. The last to help him was his son. And did he find the city? We don't know. We hope he didn't die, but 100 years later, so somebody found a city there. So, being that it's a true story, I like most of what happened, other than the fact that we don't know the true ending. So, but then again, that happens in lots of stories. I think the cast was good. Every role was played the way I believe the writer intended it to be. There was some good acting amongst those higher ranked cast, and I would recommend this for someone to watch, especially if they like kind of military things. And this is